From an emergency medical perspective, the first thing that those folks will be doing is setting up that great triage area that they've done, even if it's going to be mobile to some extent, to really try and make sure they get an assessment of how many resources and how many patients they're going to have to move to safer ground.
Yeah, this is, I can't imagine the scope that these folks are dealing with. We're talking, the air ambulances are coming in from all over big parts of Texas to help out. I mean, every air ambulance available because of the number of injured. We're hearing 200 injured, 60 to 70 killed. And I can't remember the last time we've seen something of this magnitude.
And this does become a regional and certainly a statewide event. So we know that the resources from the Dallas-Fort Worth area are being ready and mobilized to go south. So this becomes now truly, from a resource perspective, how do you get that many patients with traumatic injury? So you've got burn patients, you've got trauma patients. They are all going to need to not only be immediately stabilized in the local area, but quickly pushed out to areas such as Dallas-Fort Worth or further south or other areas of the state to make sure they can get the continuing care that they need to have a good outcome.
Right. And, we just learned this 2 days ago because of the bombings in Boston, that it's not just the burns, as you mentioned, that many people say they felt as if it was a bomb. They could feel it in their chests and in their ears, the concussion from something like this, something that can burst every window in a house for blocks and blocks away. Imagine what that might do to a human who's much closer.
Most people that suffer injuries from a blast injury don't suffer injuries from the flying debris. They suffer the internal injuries from the pressure waves. So even when you see in movies people that may be far away from a blasted area, they do collapse because of the internal damage that occurs to the organs that result in them needing to be taken to significant trauma centers.
Which is, and sometimes that can be, I'm sure, very hard to diagnose when you see someone who maybe not have, much evidence of external damage, but without perhaps doing, an X-ray or an MRI, you wouldn't know the kind of internal.
Right. That is why the triage processes that the emergency medical personnel are trained to use identifies quickly the potential for decline in those patients and gets them moved quickly to an area that can be stabilized first locally and then certainly regionally, so that the local resources aren't taxed long term.
All right, Matt, thank you very much. Thanks for talking with us and giving us your perspective on this. And this is something that, as Matt was saying, this is not just a local event for West. This has certainly become a regional and a statewide event, and something that everyone is trying to help, and certainly prayers going toward these people and the first responders. Our Brian New, you've been there for at least an hour or so now, 2 hours. Tell me, what's it like there?
It's a ghost town in part of